and lived the first couple years of my life with my brother, my mom, and my dad in a house in the country that was built into a hill. It's pretty cool, right? I still remember one day my dad let us climb on the roof, and my mom wasn't too happy about that. When I was 2 years old, my parents had their last child, my little sister Taylor. I was always mad because she never got punished for anything, but looking back, she never really did anything wrong. We moved for the first time into a bigger house just outside the town I live in now. Although I was little, I remember making tents out of blankets and dining room chairs and waking up one morning to a spider dangling from my ceiling in my face. Good times. And although I didn't know it, during this time my parents were doing a lot of fighting and I their divorce when I was just 4 years old. It didn't really have much of an effect on me because I was still really little, but I did begin to miss my dad. Because although we went to my dad's every other day during the week, we only stayed the night at his house every other weekend. We grew up fishing and hunting with my dad, and we were always playing outside. One day my dad got us a PlayStation 2 with a game called Guitar Hero. I fell in love with the game and played it every chance I got, along with other games like Driver and Tony Hawk's American Wasteland. These had a big effect on me because I still love to listen to a lot of that music today and continue to play video games in my free time. My dad lived in an apartment and my mom lived in a smaller house when we were still little. We went to school, fed the ducks, took bike rides, and all that fun stuff. I still remember a day at kindergarten when I brought her home from school thinking I would be able to call my mom and it would be cool. Until my principal caught me with it and got me in trouble for it. We grew up moving house to house with my mom while my dad only moved once, which was in the house he still lives in today. I played soccer, basketball, baseball, and wrestled, and when I wasn't, I was playing catch with myself in our front yard because my brother wasn't into any sports and my sister was too small to play. I had no worries at all, and I can hardly think of any times I was sad or mad. But I was always horribly afraid of the dark and slept in my mom's room every chance I got as a kid. If she locked the door, then I would take a credit card out of her purse and slide it through the door to unlock it. I was also a very picky eater, never finishing my meals and eating junk food all the time, but I never gained any weight. Just like today, except now I eat all the time. My dad remained single for the most part, but my mom had a few boyfriends, one of which proposed to her when I was 6 years old. I thought something was wrong with this guy. On Halloween night. I still remember how happy I was that night. When I turned 7 years old, I got my first surgery since I was a really little kid. I had my tonsils out and I loved every minute of it because I hardly felt any pain, I got to ride in a wheelchair, and I got lots of ice cream. Also, both of my parents each got a trampoline around this time, so I had a trampoline at my dad's and a trampoline at my mom's. I loved jumping around on them and I was on them all the time. One day my cousin Owen came over for a birthday party and did a backflip on my trampoline, so I was determined to learn one too. I started to teach myself some tricks and could land a front flip at age 7 and a backflip at age 8. I always wanted to get into gymnastics, but I was afraid the kids at school were going to make fun of me for it, so I just told myself no. Although I still love sports, I love flipping too. I also love watching shows like WWE, Avatar: The Last Airbender, and Power Rangers that showed stunts and stuff. By the time I was in 6th grade, we had moved 2 more times with my mom, and we were living in a house by a cemetery that I still think is haunted, and my dad had settled down in a house and began dating who would be my stepmom, Megan. I also made a YouTube channel called Edgar McSteele Potco, Potco standing for a game I spent hours playing every day called Pirates of the Caribbean Online. I began to become obsessed with computer games. I played games like Webkins, Roblox, and all that fun stuff. I made videos about these and posted them on my YouTube channel, along with some flips on my trampolines. Then a lot of things started changing in my life. I continued doing flips and began to get less and less interested in sports by the day. Also, I began to start having stomach issues when I was in 5th and 6th grade, and I had to have 2 surgeries to try and fix the problem. I began to feel better, but it was off and on throughout middle school. This led to me missing lots of days of school, but it was okay because I hated it anyway. And in 7th grade, I went to go try out for the basketball team, but ended up changing my mind when a kid asked me, "Are you really going to try out for the team? You know you aren't going to make it, right?" And me being me, went home sad and doubting myself and decided not to play basketball that year. I guess karma took its toll though, because the kid that told me that ended up not making the team. Wrestling that year was the last sport I would ever do, and I was so upset with my parents making me do it that I would skip practices or hide in the locker rooms until it was over. I started going on the trampolines all the time, learning double flips, having lots of fun with it, but the more I did it, the more people made fun of me for it. I started my Instagram account in 7th grade and began to post my flips, which led to a couple hundred followers, but endless ridicule from kids at school. Kids would call me gay and a bunch of other stuff just for doing something different than them. It got to the point that kids would slap rubber bands on me and step on the back of my shoes, and some other worse stuff, but a lot of this came from being smaller than the other kids who had already hit puberty, and of course me doing flips. By 8th grade, I was left out of the cool kids group and began to sit with the other kids at lunch. I'm glad this happened though, because I met one of my good friends, Dylan, who I could relate to a lot. I think that's why I'm still good friends with him today. Other than Dylan, I didn't really have any other friends because I hated almost everybody in my class and school in general. I would hardly talk and I became antisocial. I faked being sick a lot so I could leave school just to be alone. Thankfully, part of my life, and it was a way for me to escape these problems. And at this time, I met one of my other good friends, Quentin, who who I'm also still good friends with today. Dylan, Quentin, and I began to flip together throughout the end of 8th grade and that summer, so I began to feel a little bit less lonely. Then came freshman year when I was pushing ahead in flips and becoming one of the best at the time for trampoline, watching endless trampoline videos and loving every second of it. But my friends Dylan and Quentin began to stop doing flips, and once again I was left to do it alone. Thankfully, I met my other good friends, Jake and Jake. Although these guys lived in different towns, they became my so-called flipping friends. I also met a ton of friends on Instagram who also did flips, so I finally found friends that were into the same stuff as me and that I could relate to. And although I had these friends, kids at school were still treating me like garbage, and being a freshman didn't help. Freshman year ended, and I had the best summer I'd ever had, filled with flips, friends, and Call of Duty. But at the end of the summer, my flipping began to go downhill. Then came school again and the beginning of sophomore year, and during the beginning of this school year, I experienced my first anxiety attacks and was super stressed out about everything. I worried all the time about fitting in, my grades, and whatever else. This led to my chest hurting all the time, which made it even worse. My escape to all of this was flips, but that was now basically gone due to me being too scared of hurting myself. Also at this time, my mom had sat down my sister and I and told us that our brother Tristan was gay. This came as no surprise to me because I watched him play with Barbies growing up, and he only hung out with girls, so I already knew it. Although I didn't care that my brother was gay, everyone else around me seemed to. Kids at school were telling me that I should kill my brother in my sleep because he was gay. So I just ignored these kids. I did and still do stand up for my brother and support him in whatever he does, because even though he annoys me sometimes, I still love him the same. Also, my relationship with my dad had began to fade. I used to go over to his house and eat dinner almost every weeknight, and now it happens about once a week. This happened because of a fight I had with my dad about a year ago. And although I know my dad still loves and cares about me, I've always been able to tell my mom what's on my mind. And all of this made me want to find a new escape besides flips. And this was to go to online school. Although my amazing mom supported me in everything I do and still does, thanks Mom, love you, she wanted me to stay in public school and tough it out, so I did. I think the first time I ever stood up for myself was my first semester of my sophomore year when a kid was making fun of me for doing flips when I said, "What do you do?" "Nothing. You sit on your ass all day and back on what other people do." And ever since I said that, he's never said another thing to me, and it just really made me not care what people think. I started making more and more YouTube videos as my new hobby to escape all the stress, and now I've completely fallen in love with making videos, and I'm getting more and more supporters every day with the numbers slowly rising. To this day, I still have some losers come up to me and say stuff like, "Let's go do some flips on our trampolines." But it doesn't really get to me because I know if they're watching my videos, they're just giving me views. But the best thing about my life right now is that I finally found something that I love doing and that I could possibly do for the rest of my life. So it's just a big motivator for me to keep making videos for you guys, and it just means so much to me that so many people actually like my videos. I started out not knowing if people would like the content I was going to make, but it's grown faster than I'd ever imagined. So yeah, that's basically my life up until this point, and because I'm only 15 years old, almost 16, I'll probably make an updated one in the future. If I had one piece of advice for you guys, it would be to be who you are and don't care what other people think, because in the end, you're going to make yourself happier following your own path. So yeah guys, that's it for this video. Thank you to everybody who watched to the end, and just thank you guys for watching my videos. All your support means so much.